The story begins with Gregor Samsa, a young man whose life is entirely dominated by responsibilities and economic pressures. Gregor is the sole breadwinner of his family, and he devotes all his energy and effort to meeting their financial needs. With diligence and persistence, he travels long distances daily and works long, exhausting hours, even when his body and mind are worn out. His life is fully structured and scheduled, and all personal interests, hobbies, and dreams are constrained by work obligations. He is a dutiful, patient, and self-sacrificing person who never considers his own well-being, as his sense of value and identity is tied entirely to his ability to provide for his family, and any neglect of this responsibility is unimaginable for him. But one morning, the world changes in an unexpected way. When Gregor opens his eyes, he realizes that he is no longer human and has turned into a giant, insect-like creature. This sudden, surreal transformation marks the beginning of his alienation from his family, society, and even his own self. The body that once symbolized his ability to support life and his identity now becomes strange, isolated, and useless, making even everyday movements and tasks difficult and unfamiliar. Yet, Gregor's first thoughts remain occupied with work and financial responsibilities. He worries about being late for work and failing to meet the family's debts and obligations. This reaction reveals how deeply economic pressures and financial responsibilities are rooted in his life, and how his identity is entirely intertwined with his social and economic role. In the first moments after this transformation, Gregor experiences severe confusion and anxiety. Moving his new and unfamiliar body is difficult and sometimes frightening. Even the simplest daily tasks, such as getting out of bed or opening a door, become major challenges. Despite physical limitations, his mind remains preoccupied with work and financial calculations, a conflict that demonstrates the profound entanglement of economic responsibilities with his human identity. At the same time, feelings of loneliness and alienation from his family and the world gradually emerge. He realizes that he can no longer communicate with others as he once did. The looks and behaviors of his family, which previously signified love and support, can now carry fear, disgust, and hatred. When Gregor first reveals his new condition to his family, their reactions are intense and contradictory. His mother, full of love and fear, begins to cry. She worries about her son, but repeatedly withdraws in terror at his inhuman form and movements. This contradiction in her behavior illustrates the complexity of human relationships and the limitations of people's ability to cope with unexpected changes. Gregor's father, unlike his mother, reacts with anger and violence. He sees Gregor as a threat to the family's order and forcibly drives him back to his room, as if his presence disrupts the world. The father represents a society that values people solely based on their performance and appearance, rejecting anything outside the norm. Gregor's sister, Greta, initially shows empathy and kindness, providing him with food and care and trying to keep him calm. However, under the pressure of new responsibilities and limitations caused by Gregor's condition, her patience and kindness gradually diminish. Her behavior becomes cold and indifferent, and at times she even looks at him with disgust, a gradual transformation that reflects how people's empathy can wane under social and economic pressures. These reactions make it clear that even before his transformation, Gregor was already submerged in economic and social pressures, and in times of crisis, The family prioritizes their own interests and security over his needs and feelings. They see Gregor not as an independent individual, but as a tool for financial support. And when he is no longer able to fulfill this role, his value diminishes. Over time, Gregor becomes an isolated, depressed, and withdrawn creature. His small, dark room becomes his only refuge, a place where he dwells on past memories and bitter feelings of loneliness and sorrow. His humanity gradually gives way to insect-like movements and behaviors. Meanwhile, the family is forced to take on new jobs to sustain themselves. This change not only reduces the family's financial burden, but also greatly diminishes Gregor's perceived value in their eyes. The man who was once the foundation of the family is now useless, even a nuisance. Ultimately, despite his efforts to communicate and help his family, Gregor dies in isolation and physical weakness. His death carries multiple symbolic messages. The inability of humans to cope with social and economic pressures, the collapse of complex and tense family relationships, and the family's selfishness and dependency, which allows them to feel freedom and lightness after his death and continue their lives without constraints. After Gregor's death, the family decides to move to a new house and plan for the future. With renewed hope and energy, they continue their lives. This tragic and symbolic ending clearly demonstrates the alienation of humans in modern society and the dependence of their value on social performance. The creature who once showed love and sacrifice to his family now serves as a reminder of the limitations and social pressures he endured. Psychological analysis of the Metamorphosis. Franz Kafka's The Metamorphosis provides a profound and symbolic depiction of the modern human condition, a person who becomes deeply isolated and alienated under economic, social, and psychological pressures. Gregor Samsa's transformation into an insect-like creature is a vivid manifestation of his alienation. Even within the family, where support and affection are expected, a person can remain completely alone and vulnerable. This alienation is not only physical, but also psychological and existential. Gregor was already under the strain of economic obligations before his bodily transformation, and his identity was entirely linked to his social role and productive capacity. After the transformation, this dependence on economic performance, which was the foundation of his identity, tragically collapses, revealing a profound identity crisis. The family's reaction to Gregor's condition also reflects the psychological complexity of human relationships and the limits of empathy. The family, which once relied on Gregor as a financial pillar, distances itself and even resents his presence when he can no longer fulfill this role. This behavior demonstrates that affection and support are often conditional upon an individual's usefulness rather than their inherent humanity, reflecting the harsh self-centeredness and social dependency in modern life. From a psychological perspective, Gregor represents a human whose personality and values are entirely shaped by external pressures and aligned with duties and responsibilities. The threat to his economic and social identity amplifies anxiety, depression, and deep isolation. His physical transformation symbolizes the collapse of self-awareness and an existential identity crisis. His mind remains human, but his body is incapable of performing human roles, creating a tragic and psychological conflict between mind and body. Kafka's surreal and symbolic style is his primary tool for portraying psychological, economic, and social pressures. Gregor's insect-like form serves as a metaphor for isolation, burnout, and feelings of worthlessness in the modern world. while his small, confined room reflects his psychological space and the gap between him and the outside world and his family. Kafka not only critiques the individual's place in family and society, but also, through strong symbolism, vividly depicts human experiences of alienation, loneliness, and identity crisis, making his work a cornerstone of modern world literature. Literary value and the place of the novel in world literature. The Metamorphosis is one of the most prominent works of modern and surrealist literature, combining reality and imagination to portray identity crises and the psychological state of humans. Kafka, using simple yet profound language, expresses the thoughts and emotions of his characters in a clear and symbolic manner, presenting a world in which human worth is measured not by humanity or character, but by economic ability and social utility. This dark depiction of modern society clearly illustrates the tension between human dignity and economic pressures. Kafka's works, especially The Metamorphosis, have had a significant influence on 20th century literature. Writers such as Albert Camus, Jean-Paul Sartre, and Samuel Beckett drew inspiration from his style in expressing alienation, identity crises, and life's absurdity, to the extent that the term Kafkaesque emerged to describe complex, illogical, and merciless conditions of human life. Additionally, the Metamorphosis raises deep philosophical and ethical questions regarding the meaning of life, human value, responsibilities, and family relationships. Gregor's tragedy and his family's behavior prompt readers to reflect on humanity's place in the modern world and the true meaning of being human.